Hey guys, it's Joe. I hope everyone's doing great out there. Coming at you tonight with my good friend Morbid Mike. We just went and saw the newest horror movie, The Green Inferno, which has been getting a decent amount of buzz out there. There's been talk about people fainting in the theater after seeing this movie and whatnot. But we shall see what we thought about it. So, Mike, do you want to give like a very brief, quick plot synopsis on this movie, if you can?
Yeah, sure, Joe. The synopsis of this movie is that there's a bunch of naive college students who go to the Peruvian jungle to try to save a tribe from, the stereotypical kind of evil corporation that's bulldozing the native terrain. And in doing so, obviously killing the tribe. So they're going there, and their objective, their goal, is to stop the corporation from doing so. And the irony of it all is that their plane basically goes down, and they are now the victims of the people that they were trying to help because they are being held captive by cannibals. So the movie takes a twist, and that's not really ruining anything for you. That's, the basic plot of it. I know when we were younger, we were big Eli Roth fans with Cabin Fever and things like that, Joe, but what did you think about the movie? I have a pretty strong opinion about it, but what did you think?
Yeah, I have a pretty strong opinion about it, too. And I just want to preface this before we go any further. We will not be spoiling this movie for you. We know this movie just came out tonight, so we're not going to spoil it for you guys. We'll let you guys go and see it. We don't want to spoil anything for anyone. But I have a very strong opinion on this movie. So Eli Roth, of course, as we know, has been a very polarizing director. He started off very strong with Cabin Fever and Hostel, and since then he's kind of dropped off. His movies have
missed his mark.
Yeah, he's been missing the mark lately, without a doubt. And a lot of people, I think a lot of horror fans have been very disappointed with his work recently, especially because he started off so strong. And he is a very big horror fan. So, the horror fans want to like him, without a doubt, but it's tough to like him with the stuff he's been coming out lately. And I'm sorry to say, with The Green Inferno, his tradition of bad movies continues. I'm really sorry to say it. This movie I was so excited for. I had such high expectations for.
Do you think that high expectations is because that we kind of grew up watching Cannibal Holocaust, right? And we, even though those movies are cheesy and they're not great films per se.
Absolutely.
There's something, for us at least, that's nostalgic about it, I think.
Absolutely. Roth wanted to go back. This is an obvious throwback to Cannibal Holocaust, or at least he tried to pay homage to Cannibal Holocaust, but he just did not hit the mark with this one, I gotta say.
What do you think? Why?
First of all, it's acted very terribly. It is very, very poor acting. The acting is just bad. That's all I can say about it. The lead actress isn't the worst. She's okay.
I agree.
But the rest of the cast is bad. Roth tries to insert his humor in this movie, which some movies it absolutely works. In this movie, I just felt like it missed the mark.
It failed.
It totally missed the mark.
Yeah, I agree.
On this one. And, it was just very disappointing. And I think a major problem I have with this movie was he did not build the characters up enough for me to care about.
For you to give a shit.
For me to care about anyone in this movie. You do not care once they end up. This movie is a slow burn too, I gotta mention. It takes a while for them to actually get to this native tribe. But he builds these characters up for like a solid 45-50 minutes. But you never emotionally connect with these characters that you care what happens to them once they get to the island. I don't know.
And it's great that you brought that up. I was wondering the same thing. I don't know if it's part of the satire, because I think some of the movie is satire.
Absolutely.
It's definitely poking fun at the contemporary kind of college campuses and the student base that's out there with, they're great ideals, but they might not know shit until they're right in the middle of it.
Right.
And I was wondering the same thing because I agree with you. There's nothing to like about any of these characters. Nothing.
Nope.
They're more like archetypes or even stereotypes. Like, they're not people, they're just like, you have the, you have the female warrior, you have the asshole, I don't even want to, he's not a jock at all, he's just jock is completely wrong. He's just the, I don't even want to call him the villain. Yeah, he's like the cynical.
He's like a cynic.
Good-looking college kid who she kind of likes, but he has no good ideals. And again, this isn't ruining anything. Like, if you have an eye for detail, you'll pick this up in the first 20 minutes of the movie. But I agree with you. The characters weren't built up, so why do we care if they're getting butchered?
Butchered, right? Yeah, and you don't.
And can we bring up that point, Joe? Now that the characters are one thing, but let's face facts. If you're going to watch a cannibal exploitation film, you probably are going to see some sort of gore. And let's get real, you probably want to see some sort of gore.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that much going into it prior to this, other than it was a throwback to Cannibal Holocaust, and Roth wanted to kind of pay homage to it. Green Inferno was obviously the working title for Cannibal Holocaust, and then it was changed, but I wasn't that impressed with the gore. There's a few gory scenes.
Yeah, I thought the gore was okay. It wasn't overly violent, but there was definitely some violent scenes. True. There was some decent gore. There was some decent violence. For a more seasoned horror fan, it's nothing that's going to shock you.
Nothing.
For an everyday, for like a normal person who's going to see it, I could see people being disturbed by it. But if you're used to horror movies and stuff, it is not going to be anything new. Nothing that's going to shock you. There was one scene in particular I guess I felt was a little gruesome. But other than that, nothing that like totally jumped out at me where I was like, wow.
That scene is pretty violent. But it's kind of like Roth and the producers and the filmmakers kind of focused their attention on that one scene, which I'm not sure. Maybe it works. I think maybe when you look at Cannibal Holocaust or any of the other cannibal films in the 70s and 80s, maybe their over-the-top violence is kind of what deterred the major audience?
It absolutely deters the major audience. And, I mean, maybe that's why Roth didn't go over the top with this. But it was still gruesome.
It was, yeah, no doubt.
It was still definitely gruesome, but not gruesome enough to call it a Cannibal Holocaust, like to compare it with Cannibal Holocaust.
Nope.
He wanted to try to make a Cannibal Holocaust movie, and Cannibal Holocaust did it 100 times better. If you're going to pick this or Cannibal Holocaust, you're picking a Cannibal Holocaust 100 times out of 100. I mean, this movie doesn't even compare to Cannibal Holocaust.
I think there's something to note, Joe, too, though, and we kind of mentioned it about the humor of Eli Roth, whereas in Cabin Fever, it worked really well because the whole movie was a horror comedy.
Right.
It had a very lighthearted feel to it, even though he was mixing a lot of drastic situations or violent situations. When you guys go into this movie, there's going to be a lot of humorous, quote-unquote, situations where I just don't know if it's appropriate or if it works. Like, it just seems really, to be blunt, really stupid or really silly. Absolutely. And it takes away from the mood of everything. Like, I think the first half of the movie, they did a great job of doing it very kind of satirical.
It was set up nicely, but honestly, it really went downhill once they got to the jungle and to the tribe. The setup, that first 45 minutes was intriguing, decent, but once they actually get to the meat of what you're excited for as a horror fan...
No pun intended.
Yeah, it's no pun intended with the meat, but once they actually get to the meat of the story that you as a horror fan are excited about, that's when it completely drops the ball.
Yeah, and I don't know if you felt the same way, but I kind of felt like when they were interacting with the corporation, that there was more stress.
Yeah. Absolutely. There was almost more tension with the corporation and them
than the tribe, and I think that defeats the whole purpose of the film.
Yeah,
So
we gotta say, I mean, for me,
what do you give it?
Me personally, well, let me go over one more point first before we go into like our initial thought. The feeling of dread in this movie was really lacking. I feel like that's really important to discuss. I never felt a total sense of dread for these characters. I mean, these characters are screwed. There's no doubt about it. But I never felt like a sense of dread for them. And I think that has to do with not caring enough about the characters. It kind of ties in to not caring enough about the characters. But I feel like Roth never really develops this sense of dread. And now that I'm thinking about it, there was no score in this movie, was there? Was there ever like really music in this movie?
That's a really good point.
I don't remember any sense of score or music, and maybe that would have helped the movie. I don't know. He was probably going for a more naturalistic style, which I respect, absolutely. But maybe that would have worked better for this movie because I cannot remember any sense of score or
really
maybe something that would have built some tension.
There really wasn't
during those scenes.
And maybe that's the lack of character development and the lack of plot and the there just was a lot missing, I feel like.
Absolutely.
On my part, I think there is one thing about this movie that we haven't talked about, and it's that the best of my knowledge, the natives that are in the movie are actual natives who had never seen a movie. And I do think that's interesting.
That is super interesting.
In itself, whether it's good or bad, I know there's a lot of controversy revolving around this movie, whether it's right to kind of... A lot of people in the news and just in general just say it's exploitation and that you shouldn't, like a lot of white supremacy and that there's a lot of xenophobia, like, the fear of the foreigner. And I'm not getting into that, but it is interesting if everything is true that they're saying in the media that this was a tribe that was... before this movie was never seen on film and they had never seen a movie. I just think that's interesting too because... Super interesting. If you kind of look at it from that perspective, it does seem a little lighthearted because how could you convince an actual native tribe without them believing that it's kind of just fun and make-believe? Right. But
I don't think the tribe was ever an issue though. Like I felt like they played their parts well enough. I think it's all on Roth. Roth just... story-wise, just did not grab...
Did he not know what he was doing? Like, did he want to make, like, a gruesome movie? Did he want to make a comedy? You don't really know.
That is a great point.
What's his purpose?
This movie seems like a total, like, social commentary on college kids, like...
Which works for the first 30 minutes.
Right, and he should have just grasped the horror. He did not catch the horror enough.
He didn't execute it.
He didn't execute it well enough at all. So just like total disappointment.
Overall, what do you think?
So overall, I will say it's not even worth your time. I will say it's not worth seeing in your theater. It's not worth seeing in the theaters, and I'll probably never watch this movie again. I have no interest in seeing this movie again. There was just nothing exciting enough for me to be like I would want to watch this movie again. Even like on Netflix, if someone throws it on, I'll sit there and watch it, but like I'm gonna tell them this is not a good movie. And in my opinion, I would say skip it. I'm just gonna bluntly say skip it. I don't think it's worth anyone's time. It certainly wasn't worth paying the money to go see in theaters. Mike?
Yeah, my opinion's not too different. I think we kind of agree on a lot, but if you like the cannibal subgenre, and let's face facts, there's not that many there's not that many movies in the cannibal subgenre. If you are a Cannibal Holocaust or whatever fan, maybe it is worth your time to go see and make your own opinion of it. I agree with you, Joe, though. I think it missed its mark with its plot, with its type of mood that it wanted to portray, and the characters sucked. I think the satire works for about 25 minutes, and if you're, like I said, if you are interested in an actual movie, you might see the fun in the satire for the first 30 minutes, but the problem with the movie is the first 30 minutes, they're not even in the jungle yet. So it misses that mark. And not to mention, without giving any spoilers, I think there's a lot of issue with the ending of the film. Like the very ending.
The very ending,
like post credits.
Yeah.
Stay after for the credits for something.
Yeah.
But again, not really spoiling anything, but there is a little scene. It just seems like I don't know if I'm caught between where Joe is saying just skip it completely, or if only go see it if you're a legitimate cannibal fan. But just be warned, and we said this in the very beginning of our review, if you're just looking for some gore and over-the-top violence and shock in your horror, this movie's not going to do it for you.
No.
And the mainstream media has done a very good job of saying that it's gruesome.
Right.
And Joe summed it up perfectly. He said, if you're kind of an average horror fan, it will be gruesome.
Yeah.
If you have been accustomed to watching it, it's not going to be that bad.
No.
So, I'm not sure. Unless you're really invested in the cannibal film, I would agree with you, Joe. Don't go see it.
Okay, so you'd say it's worth maybe seeing it like as a rental?
Yeah.
Okay.
At best. I would not pay, I don't know what, the movie prices are around the rest of the country, but we paid $11, $12 to go see the movie. Not worth it.
Not worth it. Okay.
It's not.
So I'm going to say skip it completely. You're going to say if it's on Netflix or something, give it a watch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless pay a few bucks for it, definitely not worth a full movie theater purchase.
Okay. So that is both of our opinions on the Green Inferno. I think we can both say we were both disappointed though.
We were because I think
we had we both had high expectations for this movie.
And I think we both like I said in the very beginning, we both like Eli Roth, and if not only for Cabin Fever and Hostel.
Cabin Fever and Hostel, we
grew
enjoyed.
up with it.
Absolutely.
And
we wanted to like this movie, but I was
he's been on a
just disappointed. Yeah. He's absolutely been on a rush.
Maybe our emotions are getting the best of us, but I think we're on the same page.
I don't think so. I would be very surprised if this movie gets a lot of high praise. I really
from
would.
Actual horror fans.
Yes, I would be very surprised. And it seemed like the audience, in general, when we left the theater, wasn't very happy with it.
A lot
of people seemed displeased with it.
They were definitely speaking of their
displeasure.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. All right, guys, so that is it. If you guys have already seen Green Inferno, let me know what you think of it. If you enjoyed it, definitely let me know what you enjoyed about it. I would love to discuss that with you. If you agree with us, let me know too, and we can discuss that too. But that is it, guys. So, everyone have a great night, and we'll see you all real soon.
Yes, yeah.